China didn't just copy US military technology, it revived a failed trillion-dollar nightmare and called it innovation. While the Pentagon is rapidly shifting toward drone swarms, AI warfare, and lighter, smarter combat systems, something very different is happening on the other side. In early 2026, Chinese military forums exploded with celebration, claiming they had succeeded where America failed. A controversial article spread like wildfire, declaring that a system the US abandoned as too expensive and unworkable had now been reborn as the Type 100 tank. According to its supporters, this wasn't just a breakthrough, it was proof that China had overtaken the West. The US failed, China succeeded. That narrative spread at lightning speed, and as if a few futuristic-looking vehicles could crush the M1A2 Abrams and rewrite the balance of global military power. But here's the real question. What if this breakthrough is actually a recycled failure on a much bigger scale? Chapter 1. The most absurd victory parade in modern warfare. When a failed idea is reborn as a symbol of power. In 2003, the US military launched one of its most ambitious and most disastrous projects. Future Combat Systems. The vision sounded revolutionary, a fully networked battlefield where sensors detect everything first, and speed replaces armor. One universal chassis, 8 types of manned vehicles, drones in the air, drones on the ground. A digital web designed to strike before the enemy even reacts. On paper, it looked like the future. In reality, it was a fantasy. So, to make it deployable, everything had to be light, around 20 tons, so it could fit into a Lockheed C-130 Hercules. But war didn't follow PowerPoint logic. Roadside bombs and anti-tank missiles tore through these lightly armored vehicles with ease. The system itself became a monster, over 35 million lines of code, more complex than the F-35 Lightning II at the time. And the idea of connecting thousands of battlefield nodes in real time? Completely unrealistic with the technology available back then. The price tag? $161 billion. By 2009, US Secretary of Defense Robert Gates made the call. Kill it. No matter how much had already been spent, the project was a dead end. The US pivoted back to reality. Heavier armor, higher survivability, platforms like the M1A2 Abrams. That should have been the end of the story. But in 2026, something unexpected happened. The Chinese Communist Party picked up this abandoned concept, this proven failure, and presented it as a breakthrough. Rebranded, repackaged, sold as innovation. And at the center of it all, the Type 100. According to Chinese military media, this vehicle can do everything. Air search radar, loitering munitions, a 30mm rapid-fire cannon, even a large onboard drone for reconnaissance and communication. It sounds impressive until you think about it for 5 seconds. What they've actually built is a battlefield liability, a radar that broadcasts its position to enemy anti-radiation missiles, a hull packed with explosives, a drone system that forces the vehicle to stop and expose itself just to operate. Every feature adds capability, but also adds risk. Stack them together, and you don't get a super weapon. You get a perfect target. It's the ultimate engineering contradiction. Everything in one platform, and one hit destroys everything. Even worse, they revived the same universal chassis idea that already failed once. The US spent over a decade proving a simple rule of war. You cannot optimize for everything at the same time. Tanks need armor, recon vehicles need speed. Try to combine both, and you get neither. And that's exactly what this becomes. As a tank, it's too light. Its armor won't survive modern 125mm rounds. As a reconnaissance vehicle, it's too heavy, too expensive, and too complex. What you're left with isn't the future of warfare. It's a recycled mistake, dressed up as progress. Chapter 2. The 2 absurdities behind a trillion yuan gamble. This isn't just a weapons program, it's a money machine disguised as innovation. If the Type 100 is a recycled failure of US future combat systems, then its production is something else entirely. A last feast for China's defense industry in the economic winter of 2026. Don't read propaganda from the PLA Daily. Follow the money inside Norinco. At the center is Institute 201 in Beijing, a research body pushed to the edge after military reforms. To survive, they needed something big, futuristic, and insanely expensive. So they revived a failed American concept, rebranded it as a breakthrough, and sold it as China overtaking the West. And who turned that illusion into reality? Plant 617 in Beotou. While China's civilian economy struggled, this factory ran at full speed. At Tiananmen Square, the Type 100 rolled past in grand formation, hailed as a symbol of military strength. But to insiders, it sounded different, like money burning. Inside the industry, it has a nickname: two absurdities. First, absurd cost. To meet airlift limits of the Y-20 transport aircraft, engineers packed it with titanium alloys and rare earth materials. The result? Each unit cost more than 3 times a Type 99A, draining massive public funds. Second, absurd performance. The chassis can't handle a 125mm gun, so it's stuck with a 105mm cannon, outmatched by modern tanks like the M1A2 SEP V3 and Leopard 2A8. So here's the real question. Do planners not see the problem? They do, and that's exactly the point. For giant defense conglomerates, complexity isn't a weakness, it's a business model. The more complex the system, the longer the supply chain, the more players involved, and the more money gets distributed behind the scenes. A traditional tank is easy to judge, but a network system? It can always fail for convenient reasons. Software bugs, signal interference, lack of computing power. And every failure becomes an excuse for more funding. That's why so many institutes were pulled in. And with corruption scandals already exposed in the rocket force, the Type 100 starts to look less like a weapon and more like a billion-dollar money pipeline, quietly flowing far beyond China's borders. Chapter 3. Real war won't forgive this. Moving coffins in billion-dollar scrap. If the Type 100 is so flawed, why is it even deployed? Because it's not built for real war. It's built for show. These vehicles aren't sent to frontline combat units. They're placed in showcase formations like the 82nd Group Army under the Central Theater Command, where they perform in scripted exercise, simulate perfect victories, and prove that the money was well spent. On paper, they look unstoppable. But real war doesn't follow scripts. And once the script breaks, 2 nightmares begin. First, the power system. The hybrid gasoline-electric engine sounds impressive. Silent movement, instant acceleration. But in reality, it's a logistical disaster. It demands complex maintenance, fragile electronics, and perfect conditions. Now put that system in extreme environments, freezing plateaus near the China-India border, or minus 40 degrees Celsius winters in the Northeast. Batteries fail, systems crash, electronics freeze. Older tanks? You fix them with tools and experience. The Type 100, when it breaks, it becomes a dead machine full of error codes. And in real combat, a dead tank isn't repaired, it's abandoned. Hundreds of millions of Yuan left on the battlefield as high-tech scrap. Second, survivability. To stay lightweight, armor protection is sacrificed. The result? A vehicle that may not even withstand heavy machine gun fire. Now place it in a modern battlefield flooded with cheap FPV suicide drones and loitering munitions. It becomes the perfect target. Picture this, a $500 FPV drone carrying a simple RPG warhead slips past radar blind spots and hits the thin top armor or exposed radar. One strike and everything collapses. Radar gone, air defense gone, secondary explosions rip through the vehicle. In seconds, a machine worth 200 million yuan turns into burning debris. That's the real math of modern warfare. $500 to destroy $30 million. The US learned this the hard way and abandoned future combat systems. But the Type 100 is walking straight into the same trap, spending more to survive less. Chapter 4. The real problem isn't the tank, it's the system behind it. Technical flaws can be fixed, but this is structural. Even the article admits it. These projects are expensive, risky, and often irrational. But once leadership gives the order, they must move forward. Fast, no pause, no correction. That's the dark side of a centralized system with no real self-check. In the US, programs like Future Combat Systems were killed when they failed. In 2009, it was shut down because reality mattered more than pride. But inside the Chinese Communist Party, once a narrative is set, we must overtake the West, it becomes untouchable. And that creates a dangerous paradox. Engineers know the design is flawed, but they build it anyway. Finance teams see the cost, but they approve it anyway. Frontline soldiers doubt it, but they applaud it anyway. Because in this system, admitting failure is more dangerous than continuing it. And then reality hits. During the Stride Across 2025 exercise at the Zhuhai training base, the illusion collapsed. Within just 15 minutes of electronic warfare interference, the entire command system broke down. All networks failed, screens filled with errors, units lost communication, drones disappeared from control. What was supposed to be a future battlefield turned into chaos. High-tech vehicles, wandering aimlessly across the steppe like headless machines. It wasn't modernization. It was a system failure, fully exposed. The scene felt like a modern echo of the Boxer Rebellion, belief replacing reality. But this time, instead of swords and slogans, it was sensors and machines that didn't work when it mattered most. And that's the real story. The Type 100 isn't just a flawed weapon. It's a symptom, a system where innovation becomes performance, spending becomes purpose, and power moves forward, whether it's right or wrong, because when no one is allowed to say stop, the cost of being wrong doesn't disappear. It multiplies.